the 296 GTB takes the rulebook that's set for what a mid-engine Ferrari supercar should look like and pretty much tears it up. To start with, it's not a V8 anymore. It's the first ever Ferrari badged V6, and to rile you up even more, it's now a plug-in hybrid. But I'm not complaining. This is the first time that I get to drive a Ferrari, and the fact that I'm doing it in typical Mumbai traffic should make the experience quite interesting. Make a list of the best looking cars around right now, and it will be difficult to leave the 296 GTB out of this. Even in this offbeat deep blue shade, the aura on this compact supercar is striking. The smooth, soft bodywork hides a fully functional aerodynamic package which seems to be heavily F1 inspired. There's air channels to reduce drag and aid downforce, but a big departure from Ferrari mid-engine norm is the freestanding roof design that now acts as an aero element in itself. Similarly, the spoiler too is now meant to increase downforce at low speeds and reduce drag as you go faster. But the looks aside, there are some really neat touches that make you feel even more special that you're owning something truly, different from anything else on the road. For example, this really large frunk where you'll fit at least a weekend's luggage for two, and this plaque here which tells you exactly all the options that you've taken. So every time you open the frunk, you know that you're in something special and it's just not an ordinary car, so to speak. And that continues with this enameled sort of fender ornament. It's really quite an expensive option. People love to take it, and really does give you that whole motorsport heritage that the Ferrari brand comes with. It really comes through with this Scuderia Ferrari badge. And then it's a plug-in hybrid, so very discreetly, it's exactly symmetrical to the fuel filler cap on the other side of this AC type charging port. So in about 2 hours, you can fully charge the 296 GTB, which is not a lot of time. And then coming to what is really the star of the show, the way this engine is. It's parked in pretty deep into the frame of the car, so to speak. It's quite a flat 120-degree V6. So been able to package it really nicely. So with all the battery stuff, all the electric motors deep inside, it's still really deep into the chassis of the car and very low. So weight distribution, handling, all of that has been given a lot of focus when even the engine has been packed into this car. And then as soon as you get in, of course, it's not that easy to get in with the quite high ledge and the fact that you're sitting so low, but once you're inside, it really does immediately, you get that sense that it wants you to go fast. I mean, the way the whole hood, the way the fenders sort of fall out in front of you, the windshield, the way it's sloped in front of you, it just gives you that impression that this is a car that means a lot of business. And then there's this cockpit. It's the latest Ferrari sort of theme that they followed. It's very similar to what you see on the SF90. Quite a departure from the norm. There's no central screen, which means it's good news for the driver. So you control everything through here, through this big whole screen here. Of course, it has everything that you would need in a modern car, all your navigation and so on and so forth, all your gauges and dials, and that typical yellow backlit Ferrari gauge cluster that's still been recreated quite realistically in even this full digital layout. And then of course you have the steering wheel. It comes at you in quite a flat angle, and yeah, you place your feet pretty deep down, but to be honest, I am not very tall. I fit perfectly, but someone who's maybe over 6 feet tall may find it a bit challenging, but other than that, it's great. And then of course, you've heard this many times in pretty much every Ferrari that's been reviewed, are these quite controversial controls for the steering wheel. Also these panels, the way they come up in front of you for the lighting, the mirrors on this side and the climate control here, it's really quite easy. And yeah, again for the passenger, they have a whole separate screen for them. A seat heating function, they can see all the performance stats right from this screen here, which is a really neat touch. So even the passenger sort of is in on the mood, so to speak. And those special touches which just lift the ambience from the outside that I just mentioned, that happens here on the inside too. First of all, you have this key. It's easily the nicest key that I've seen. It's almost like an ornament that you carry around. It becomes sort of a part of the cabin, a showpiece even in the cabin. That's great. And then there's the whole starting procedure. You swipe to start, which is a bit anticlimactic in my opinion, but it takes some getting used to, considering there's no park or D or reverse like in a normal car. So you just pull the right pedal to start it. You're now in effectively drive D mode, both to go into neutral. So that takes a bit of getting used to if you've never driven a Ferrari before, but once you do get used to it, it's pretty much second nature. Now here you change from auto to manual, reverse or the launch control function. They're done up exactly in the sense that those old classical Ferraris had their gated manual. So again, recreating that whole slightly special, that heritage of this brand, they managed to sort of incorporate it well into this very modern sort of interface. The cohesive look of the Ferrari 296 GTB hides an especially complex powertrain. You have a 3-litre twin-turbo V6 that makes 666 PS, making it the most power-dense production car engine on sale now. A single electric motor is nestled between the engine and a new 8-speed DCT that makes 167 PS and also acts as a starter motor, fed by a 7.45 kWh battery pack that runs just behind the seats, making a combined 830 PS and 740 Nm. The Ferrari will go from 0 to 100 kmph in 2.9 seconds and reach a 330 kmph top speed in the top qualifying mode. A better sense of this thing's relentless performance comes from the 0 to 200 kmph time of 7.3 seconds. Now you know it's going to be a slightly different experience driving this when you realize that you can set off an entirely electric power alone, of course if you have the battery charged. So just pull the pedal and it's pretty much like an EV, completely calm and serene. And you can, if you are pretty gingerly with the throttle, you can drive it in electric power for about 25 kilometers. So a short commute, if it's in say traffic or within the city like how we are right now, it's very easy to do say short commutes without even bothering the petrol engine. But we aren't going to miss up on this opportunity, so what you can easily do is just move to the performance mode. The engine revs up and it's every bit of that really sharp edge, really raw, that Ferrari sort of anger that you experience just even looking at these cars. You have that in these also, and here invariably will come up to a speed hump where surprisingly the 296 GTB has a good amount of ground clearance. You have quite a different perspective of the world from such a low seating position. Everything, even small hatchbacks seem pretty large considering how high up they are from you. But with this really wide windscreen and these haunches, it's not very difficult at all to place the 296 GTB. It's got a shorter wheelbase than the F8 Tributo, which helps. Even at these low speeds, there's a sharp wail filling the cabin as you work through the power band. Quite unlike the turbo engines, there's little in the way of hesitation with this motor. There's a nearly uninterrupted supply of power, which seems to keep rising in volume as you get nearer to the red line. The responses are especially sharp, helped by the quick-witted DCT gearbox that seems to fade away in the background in the best possible way. In effect, Ferrari seems to have managed to recreate the sensation of driving a large, naturally aspirated engine, helped by the electrical assistance and the high 8,500 RPM redline. So the steering, it's really quite sharp, so just you turn it a little bit and it just darts in. It's a really quick steering, which you might think might be a bit difficult in say tight traffic situations, but it's anything but that. It's so direct, it's so precise that you get used to it really very quickly. And while there isn't a great deal of feel, it gives you that connection. The 296 GTB won't be the most comfortable car you've driven. Of course, you can keep switching between the dampings with the Manettino switch, go up to sport, race or traction off. But what you do get in this wet mode, which is the softest or the least angry of the car's settings, with the really fat tires, with the generally firm setup, you will notice even small stuff like cat's eyes and so on. You do feel them, but again, it's damped in a way to not put you off the experience of driving this car on a day-to-day basis, for example. The 296 GTB will make you notice most of the patched road surfaces and cat's eyes you go over, but there's a planned edge to this that makes it endurable for everyday use. Around smoother, faster roads is where we truly expect this to come into its own. Ferrari has tuned the ABS and other sensors to ensure braking and handling functions remain unaffected by the switch to a hybrid powertrain. To answer the question that we set out for ourselves, yes, the Ferrari 296 GTB can handle some heavy Indian traffic about as well as anything this powerful and this committed should be able to. But that's just scratching the surface of something that belies its specs of being a downsized, hybridized, modern supercar. The 296 GTB is stunning to look at, feels like an event to be inside despite some oddities, and is brimming with the kind of exciting, connective driving experience that we all seem to think will soon be lost.